So anything else happen in night court, Adam?
Well, I had some interesting experiences. So there was quite a few people that I encountered. There was a lot of sorrow. There was a lot of, let's say, people who were in pain. And I met a woman, and she was there for her daughter to get a guardianship because her daughter started on medical marijuana. And from the medical marijuana, then she started to have some psychosis, and she went to the doctor who has prescribed her over 64 different medications. And I was praying with the woman and counseling the woman and just, letting her know that everything was going to be okay. And she said, yeah, I know, because, my husband, they won't let him in. They won't let him into the court. They won't let him in here because he's whatever. I don't know what. He's on some list or something, but he was wrongfully incarcerated for 33 years. And he just recently, 2 years ago, got a settlement. He spent he hired some law firm in Chicago. They went after, I think it was Boston, that he got convicted of like arson, and he was an illegal immigrant in the United States. So a lot of people were pointing fingers at him, saying that he did something that he didn't do, but it was very easy for them to point those fingers. And then I see a lot of that stuff happening right now, like all over our news feeds, all over this supposed patriotism. Like now Haitians are the bad guys, or these other people are the bad guys. They're really just vilifying tons of elements of our own citizens or our own nationals, so to speak, or our own Americans, our people. They're vilifying, a lot of people for their own agenda. So I was grateful and happy to hear that there was some, let's say, financial restitution at the end of the day, but obviously she said it wasn't worth it for her husband. I was surprised at how we were treated differently, because when we went in, we were men, and we were in for an emergency protective order against the woman. And at first they kind of looked at us like, what? Like they've never seen a man come in with any kind of abuse. However, this abuse, I think as a man and knowing other men, we're constantly subjected to it, but we're told as men that we're supposed to take it, whether it's false allegations, whether it's, in this case it is. The particular friend of mine that I went with, he had one false allegation. It began with a false allegation of domestic violence, where no violence was used. It was just a few words, and those words were proved to be false on top of it. He sought relief in court. There was a criminal case brought against him. He won the criminal case. He was vindicated. Then her attorney then brought 4 cases against this gentleman, and he spent the past 3.5 years embattled in court and being harassed and abused by his ex-spouse. And she said things to him like, you're a poor excuse for a man, you're a poor excuse for a father, which he never said any of those things to her. But we went in with the evidence. We went in with the proof, and we went in with the documentation that we've been putting in for a very long time. Now, they took it somewhat serious, but it was, if I wasn't there with him, I don't think he would have been able to have the success that we had, because it took me a very long time to calmly show them the evidence, explain to them their own laws, because most of them didn't know what libel was, because his wife opened a GoFundMe. And in this GoFundMe, they put pictures of their 10-year-old daughter. And in the GoFundMe, it's said that the husband was an abuser. Now, he's never been convicted of abuse. He's never done any type of abuse. I know the man. I would testify for him. I've never seen anything. There's never been any proof that he has. But there's been a bunch of false claims. And the opposite actually holds true, because now we have a 10-year-old girl who, if any of her school friends Google their last name, or if they Google search the picture of the 10-year-old girl, it's going to pop up that her father is an abuser, which is a falsehood, which is untrue, and which is child abuse. So we actually have, in this particular case, a lot of really unfounded accusations, and the fingers are pointing back at the accuser. So we do have I'm not going to make it to Minnesota until at least after Tuesday, because Monday I have an actual trial set up, emergency protection order. We got them to take it serious. I mean, it took, like, if you're a woman and you say he did this, it's like you get a snap emergency order. We didn't get an emergency order because as men, we had at least, I would say, 10 different instances of abuse. We have libel documented, numerous laws broken, and we get a trial on Monday. So we get a hearing of that. And I would say that I did feel that we were treated extremely different than if we had been of the female gender. Because for whatever reason, well, we know the reason. It's to weaken the family. And when they're putting the word of the woman above the word of the man, the patriarch, the king, it really damages our family. And they want this generationally happening. And it's just extremely sad to see and be a part of it. And I'm working to educate them that it goes both ways. And sometimes more the other way than it does. You know, I know there's like a lot of, you know, Bud Light loving guys that, you know, do beat on their women when they watch the Super Bowl and they lose. But more often than not, it's really, I would say, equal, or maybe even to the effect, David, where you pointed out that 90% of the people who are in jail don't belong to be there. I think a lot of these gentlemen who get accused of these things, it's strictly monetary and it's strictly woman scorn type of thing, where they're on a path to steal money. They're on a path to harm the man because the man rejected them for whatever reason. Maybe they cheated and got caught. Maybe they, you know, didn't behave properly and didn't fulfill their womanly duties, or whatever it was in the relationship that didn't work out. But I see a lot of vengeance. I see a lot of dishonesty. And when he went into the night court, the judge was very abrupt. It was a 5-minute process because the entire thing was already decided before we went in. So it was already decided by the clerk. We were prepped by the clerk that, you know, there's 3 things that can happen. Number 1 is dismiss. Number 2 is emergency order. And number 3 is a trial. And what we got was the trial, which she told us, you're more than likely to get the trial. So we know that it's the clerk that gives the orders to the judge. The judge is just, you know, pretending or acting in their robe and doing whatever it is they do. So she went in and, you know, blah, 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 get to the point. Okay, trial Monday, blah, blah, blah. So that's, in a nutshell, what happened.
Very typical of a family court.
Yeah. Very anti-family.
Yeah.
They should be called anti-family courts. But, you know, we're making the progress, and we're using your advice and your, let's say, I would say we're walking the walk as you do, and we're putting in the documents. You know, they're not always well received. You know, we put our affidavits on and they're just like, they're just ignored, but that's okay.